You're not exhausted because life is hard. You're exhausted because you keep giving access to people who don't deserve to be in your inner world. In Stoic philosophy, there's a simple truth. No one can hurt you unless you give them the power to do so. Yet most of us hand out that power too easily. We let the wrong people influence our emotions, our time, our energy, and even our sense of self-worth. We allow toxic relationships to occupy our thoughts. We let unreasonable expectations drain us. We let other people's opinions shape the direction of our lives. All of this happens for one reason. We don't know how to set boundaries. This video will explore the Stoic perspective on boundaries, not as walls to shut people out, but as a form of inner discipline that protects your mind, preserves your peace, and stops the wrong people from having access to who you are. Most people don't realize this, but the real reason you keep letting the wrong people into your life is not because you're weak, not because you're naive, and definitely not because you're too nice. It's because you've forgotten something essential. Your inner world is sacred. We grow up believing we must be available to everyone, reply to every message, meet every expectation, say yes to avoid disappointing others. And slowly, almost invisibly, we lose the ability to protect what matters most: our peace, our clarity, our time, and our emotional balance. The Stoics warned about this centuries ago. Epictetus said, "You become what you give your attention to." But look at your life. How much of your attention has gone to people who drain you? Who criticize instead of support? Who take without giving? Who show up in your life only when they need something? The truth is painful, but liberating. You've been giving access to people who haven't earned it. And every time you do, a small part of your inner strength is compromised. Your mind becomes noisy. Your energy becomes scattered. Your purpose becomes blurry. You start feeling things that aren't yours to carry. Guilt that isn't yours. Expectations that aren't yours. Emotional chaos that never belonged to you. And here's the most difficult part to admit. Some people don't want you to have boundaries, because your lack of boundaries benefits them. They want your attention, not your well-being. They want your energy, not your growth. They want your presence, but not your peace. The Stoic path begins the moment you recognize this. The moment you realize that your life is too important, too short, and too precious to be shaped by people who haven't earned a place within your mental gates. This awareness, this shift in perspective, is the foundation of Stoic boundaries. It is the first step toward reclaiming your emotional freedom. There comes a point in every person's life, a quiet moment, when you look around and realize your peace is no longer negotiable. Not because you've become distant, not because you've changed, but because you finally understand that every minute you spend dealing with the wrong people is a minute you can never get back. In modern life, we are taught to stay connected, but nobody teaches us how to disconnect from what harms us. We admire productivity, ambition, resilience, yet the most overlooked form of strength today is this: the courage to walk away from anything that costs your peace. And here's a truth many Americans are waking up to. You don't need more friends. You don't need more noise. You don't need more opinions telling you who to be. What you actually need is space, stillness, clarity, a mental environment where your thoughts are your own, not shaped by the insecurities of people who barely know themselves. The Stoics understood this long before the world became chaotic. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the things we allow into our minds shape our destiny. Today, that concept is more relevant than ever. Because every time you let the wrong person into your emotional universe, you are allowing them to rearrange your inner furniture, to move things around in your mind that they have no right to touch. They dim your confidence. They question your worth. They drain your motivation. They leave emotional fingerprints everywhere. But something powerful happens when you finally step back and observe. Why am I giving this person so much access to me? The moment you ask that question is the moment your boundaries begin to form. You start noticing who brings peace and who brings chaos. Who listens and who dismisses. Who respects your time and who consumes it. Who shows up with genuine intention and who shows up only when they need something. And with this awareness comes a deep, liberating realization. You don't have to let everyone in. Your life isn't a public space. Your heart isn't a waiting room. Your energy is not a resource for people to use freely. You are allowed, and meant, to protect yourself. Not with anger. Not with walls. But with clarity. Clarity about what you value. Clarity about what you will accept. Clarity about what you will no longer tolerate. This is where personal power begins. Not in controlling others, but in controlling access to you. Setting boundaries isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's not about pushing people away. It's about choosing who gets access to the most meaningful parts of you. Your time, your energy, your peace, and your emotional space. In today's culture, people admire confidence, independence, and emotional clarity. But here's the real secret behind those qualities. They come from boundaries. Stoics set boundaries not with anger, but with intention. Not by fighting people, but by filtering them. Here's the Stoic method: simple, powerful, and deeply effective. 1. Define what you will no longer allow. You can't protect your peace if you don't know what threatens it. The Stoics believed clarity is the foundation of self-control. So start with this question. What kind of behavior drains me the most? Maybe it's constant negativity. Maybe it's people who only call when they need something. Maybe it's someone who dismisses your feelings every time you speak. Example: if someone keeps interrupting you or disrespecting your time, your boundary might be, I'm no longer available for conversations that leave me emotionally exhausted. This is not confrontation. This is clarity. 2. Communicate calmly, not to control them, but to honor yourself. Stoics speak with intention. They don't raise their voice. They raise their standards. When you set a boundary, keep your tone steady and simple. I'm focusing on protecting my mental space, so I won't be available for this kind of conversation anymore. You aren't accusing. You aren't attacking. You are simply stating your truth. And people who respect you will respect that boundary. 3. Follow through without apology. One of the biggest challenges for modern Americans is guilt. We feel guilty for saying no. Guilty for resting. Guilty for protecting ourselves. But to the Stoics, guilt for doing the right thing is irrational. If someone continues to ignore your boundary, you don't argue. You don't explain for the 10th time. You don't chase. You simply limit access. Example: if someone keeps dumping their emotional chaos on you, even after you've asked for space, you don't fight them. You reduce your availability. You reply later. You keep interactions brief. You reserve your emotional energy for people who handle it with care. This is how boundaries become real. 4. Give your energy to people who actually earn it. The best boundary isn't just removing the wrong people. It's investing in the right ones. Ask yourself, who brings clarity into my life? Who supports my growth instead of draining it? Who respects my time, my effort, and my emotional limits? Because once you surround yourself with people who value you, you naturally stop tolerating those who don't. Example: a friend who listens, checks in, and respects your priorities deserves more access than someone who only shows up when they're bored or lonely. You don't need the perfect people. You just need people who show up with authenticity. 5. Remember, boundaries are acts of self-respect. The Stoics taught that peace comes from mastering your inner life. And that starts with choosing who can enter it. A boundary is not a punishment. It's not an attack. It's not rejection. It is simply this: I choose myself. I choose peace. I choose clarity. Boundaries are the quiet decisions that reshape your life. The internal shift that says, I will no longer abandon myself to keep others comfortable. And once you make that shift, everything begins to change. Your relationships, your mental clarity, your emotional strength, even the way you breathe. This is how the Stoic lives. Calm, steady, intentional, open-hearted, but selectively. Not everyone should have access to you. And that's not selfish. That's wisdom. There is a very real, very noticeable shift that happens the moment you begin setting boundaries. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It begins quietly, almost silently, but it changes everything. Because when you stop giving the wrong people access to you, you finally create space for the right things to grow. Here's what truly happens. 1. Your mind becomes clearer. For the first time in a long time, your thoughts stop feeling heavy. When you remove people who constantly drain your energy, you free up mental space you didn't even realize you'd lost. Suddenly, your mind isn't running in circles. You're not replaying arguments. You're not overthinking what someone meant. You're not bracing for emotional turbulence. Instead, you feel light, focused, present. This clarity is the beginning of self-mastery. 2. You reconnect with who you are. Constantly pleasing others makes you lose sight of yourself. But boundaries act like a mirror. They help you see yourself again. You remember your own priorities, your own values, your own voice. You begin choosing things because they matter to you, not because someone else expects it. For many people, this is the first time in years. They feel authentic rather than reactive. 3. Relationships become healthier, or they fall away. And both are blessings. When you set boundaries, something powerful happens. The wrong people leave. The right people stay. Healthy relationships get stronger. Because they're built on respect, not convenience. Toxic relationships fade. Because they can no longer survive without access to your energy. People who value you will adjust. People who use you will complain. Either way, you gain something priceless. Truth. 4. Your confidence grows without you forcing it. Most people think confidence comes from achievements, success, or praise. But real confidence comes from this simple internal message: I protect myself. When you honor your own boundaries, you teach your mind that you are worthy of respect. You begin walking differently. You speak with more intention. You stop apologizing for your existence. You become grounded, the calm kind of strong that doesn't need to shout. 5. You attract better people, better energy, and better opportunities. When you stop tolerating chaos, you make room for peace. When you stop allowing disrespect, you make room for loyalty. When you stop shrinking yourself to fit others, you make room for the life that actually fits you. This is why setting boundaries feels uncomfortable at first. It's the discomfort of becoming someone new. Someone stronger. Someone clearer. Someone who knows their worth. And once that transformation begins, you'll look back and wonder why you ever allowed so much noise inside your life. Because when you finally choose yourself, the world around you begins to shift. Almost as if life has been waiting for you to create space for the things you truly deserve. This is the Stoic transformation. Quiet, powerful, undeniable. Boundaries don't just protect your life, they elevate it. At some point in your journey, you will look back at your old life. The version of you who tolerated too much, who tried too hard, who carried weight that was never yours. And you'll whisper to yourself, never again. Not out of bitterness, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because the truth is, you were never meant to live exhausted, drained, stretched thin, or emotionally crowded. You were meant to live with intention, with direction, with inner steadiness. The Stoics understood something timeless. Your life becomes peaceful the moment you decide to protect your inner world as fiercely as you protect your outer one. This is the final Stoic message. You are not responsible for the storms that others carry. You are only responsible for the gate you open, and who you allow to enter. Your boundaries are not walls. They are doors. Doors you get to choose when to open, and doors you have every right to close. And with every boundary you set, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Your time, your energy, your purpose, your peace. One day, you will realize that saying no was the most powerful way of saying yes to yourself. And when that day comes, your life won't just feel different. It will be different. Calmer, clearer, stronger, more intentional. You will walk through the world with quiet confidence. Not needing to prove anything. Not needing validation. Because you finally understand that the most sacred thing you own is your inner state. Protect it. Honor it. And never again give access to those who treat it carelessly. This is how the Stoic lives. Not hard, not cold, but awake. If this message reached you today, maybe it's because a part of you is ready. Ready to protect your peace. Ready to choose yourself. Ready to draw the line between who you were and who you are becoming. Growth is not loud. Healing is not dramatic. Transformation is often just a quiet decision. A decision to stop giving access to the wrong people, and to start opening space for the life you truly deserve. So if this video spoke to you, if something in your heart whispered, "This is what I needed to hear," then don't let it end here. Take one moment, just one, and carry this clarity with you into your next conversation, your next choice, your next step. And if you want more messages like this, more Stoic wisdom, more emotional clarity, more reminders to stay grounded in a chaotic world, then stay with this journey. Follow the channel. Join this space. Grow with us. Because your transformation doesn't end with this video. It begins here. Thank you for watching. Protect your peace. Honor your boundaries. And remember, the world changes the moment you do.